Hi guys, this is Charis. I hope you're all enjoying these crazy days we're having. They are quite crazy. And let's see, I feel like I should update you on things that are going on first. So, yesterday I had the first Bliss Out class, which was awesome. It was really small, which was perfect because when something like that gets rolling, you want to kind of have the opportunity to really talk and get to know people. And the way that I do things like classes and retreats is that I plan the bare bones of it, but allow intuition in the moment and present moment living, which is what the Bliss Out classes are all about, to come and kind of direct the course. So it just ended up being this really cool period of hanging out with these people. So I loved it. It was awesome. Oh, and check out these things I have on my ears. I was researching ways to wear earrings that didn't have pierced ears on them because I'm letting the piercings grow back, which I'll do a whole video on, I think. But I found these, and they're kind of pointy, and they're awesome. And it was one of those things where the question of being authentic or fitting in came up, because on one hand, I was like, oh my gosh, if I start wearing stuff like that around, people are going to think that I'm really, really weird. But on the other hand, I said, well, I like them, and if people think that I'm weird, then if they start talking to me and if we get to be friends, they're probably going to think I'm really weird. If they think elf ears make me weird, then they're going to definitely think that all the other stuff I do makes me really weird. So it's like weeding it out, and not having to have a difficult conversation when the very, I don't know, I guess this hypothetical person would be closed-minded and rigid, so I wouldn't have to deal with that. So anyway, that's something also that I noticed. For many years I tried to kind of be in this fake thing of what I thought that culture would accept, and it didn't really work anyway, because my weirdness would eventually come out. I would eventually tell someone about all of the psychic stuff going on, or about the contactee thing or something like that, and I would get rejected. And so finally I said, oh, to heck with it, and I'm just going to be who I am. And since then, everything got easier. I stopped attracting people into my life who would reject me because I was authentic, so my energy pattern didn't match theirs anyway. And the people who I did attract liked who I was, weirdness and all. So there you go. And that's for all you guys who are kind of scared to come out of the closet about whatever it be. Usually esoteric stuff is what I'm mostly talking about right now. So anyway, take heart, try it, and see what happens. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, resting and recharging. What I really want to talk to you about today is the rest and recharge cycle, embracing both ends of it. Because there's the rest and recharge end, and then there's the surge forward end. Well, I guess not an end, it's like a spiral thing, so the sides of it. Anyway, I've developed this a lot with my friend Kim Cochrane, and we kind of do the Centered Heart method together, Centered Heart Holistics, which we're still really working on, and we'll roll it out eventually, but you can see other videos on my channel that I've done with her that are teaching how to use certain techniques and energy healing methods and things like that. So anyway, I'll put a link down below to one of our videos on maintaining your energy field, which is really good, especially for those of you who get drained easily being around other people, or if you're in a difficult situation. It's a good idea to just do that on a daily basis. So anyway, for me, personally, I love the surging forward part of the cycle. That's really fun for me when I'm getting tons of inspiration and I'm really motivated and things are just rolling out, and it's easy for me to write, it's easier for me to speak, it's easy for me to plan things, and people are responding. Like, for instance, these retreats I'm planning, people at the centers where I'm trying to, get, for instance, the Mount Shasta retreat, there are springs nearby and they do moon lodge ceremonies, so I'm calling them up and being like, well, I'm going to have a group of like 15 coming to do your moon lodge thing, we might crowd the whole thing, so I just want you to know that we're coming. And sometimes it really flows and people get back to you right away, and sometimes it doesn't, and things are just busy and the universe just kind of doesn't let you go forward with it. And back to the weirdness thing, the other day I was going to sleep and I was taken up onto a ship. I don't always talk about ETs anymore in my videos. That's what I mostly started off talking about, but in actuality, the whole human experience of what's going on Gaia right now is much bigger than just the ET thing, so I don't always talk about it. But in this case, I will for a second. Sometimes I've gotten taken up physically. Mostly I don't remember those times. Where someone will come to my house and get me, and usually, in fact, I don't remember any scary experiences. I know people have a lot of accounts out there on the web of scary stuff that's happened. And I don't know if it's happened or not, but in any event, I don't remember them. The only experiences I know I've had with extraterrestrials have been very loving and wonderful. Whether or not I freak out when they come in my house, which I do. So that's why I don't remember very many of them. Probably one of these days I'll do a long video on exactly what happened the last time I was physically taken, because it was pretty intense. And even what happened after I was on the ship was really intense, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm talking about right now is what happened a few days ago, and I was astrally taken up. And that, I think, is a lot easier with the beings that I am connected with, because they're not in the third dimension. A lot of people have an idea that ETs must be just running around in flesh and blood, and I think some of them are, because it's a gigantic universe and there are tons of races and tons of sub-races and tons of agendas for why people are visiting Earth and things like that. But the ones that I deal with are in an actual finer dimension, like they vibrate faster, so they're hard to see in the third dimension. You can't really see them. And so they've got all this stuff going on, but it's actually in a different dimension. So when I am taken up onto those ships, what ends up happening is that my physical body is not taken. Just my etheric body or astral body or whatever you want to call that. And the other day, it's happened a couple times over the course of my life. I can recall about 3 or 4 times of it happening in the past 2 years, I guess, and it happened a lot at the beginning of my awakening, and then it hadn't happened in kind of a long time without me making it happen, because I could like go up and kind of visit and check in with my guides up there. But usually when I meditate and check in with my guides, it's just like a telephone conversation. It's not like I'm actually there. So the other day, I'm falling asleep in the middle of the day, because I'm doing that sleep thing where I sleep for about 4 hours at night and then about 4 hours during the day, which I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but sleep has been weird lately. Like, so tired and hard to get up, and that's very unusual for me. Usually I'm a bounce out of better, but lately it's been like setting the snooze, which I never ever do until the past like week or so. And again, it's just that cycle, like the surging forward and then the resting and recharging, and the resting and recharging is when you're tired and when things to surge forward aren't really moving. Inspiration is coming more slowly, and you kind of want to rest all the time. And even in my case, I want to eat heavier foods. I'm not as totally satisfied just doing like pure juicing, which is mostly what I do. Most of my meals are in a cup and they are juice. But because my body really likes that. And so when my body doesn't like it, when it wants something else, I have something else, and kind of go with what my intuitive knowing is about what my body needs. Anyway, so I'm falling asleep and I felt the presence there of someone. And so I said, fine, go ahead, take me, I'm good. And sometimes after you say that, weird things will start to happen, like you'll hear noises or you'll see something out of the corner of your eye. Or, in this case, when it was astral, I felt my consciousness go up out of my body and start floating upward. And I was also aware of my body there. And those of you who've done remote viewing, astral traveling, it was like that with one major difference. The difference was that when I have remote viewed and astral traveled, as I float up out of my body and fly around or go somewhere else or whatever it is, I still have my body. It's just a different version. So there's the body that's sitting there meditating or lying there meditating, and the body that's kind of zooming around or going and checking out whatever I'm trying to check out, which is really fun, by the way. And if you haven't tried it, I would grab a book that appeals to you on it, because it's easy to validate. You could, go say you want to see a spot and then like Google Earth it and see if you're accurate, and you can kind of check your progression there, because when you go see a place and on the astral level or remote view it, and then you go and see what it actually looks like and you see that you were accurate, that is a really cool moment. Anyway, so the difference was that rather than having this body only in a finer form, while my more physical body is still and kind of sleeping down below, I was like this amorphous cloud of consciousness, which I don't ever remember happening before. And so I'm floating up out of my body, and from what I understand, whenever I travel this way and meet my guides on the ship where they are, it's this like gigantic ship that's as big as like a city, not even kidding, I mean, as big as a mountain range, like huge, and it sits like on the border of our atmosphere, like not in the atmosphere, not out of the atmosphere. Something about where the atmosphere ends is where it most easily sits. I don't know why that works, but that's how it's been explained to me. And also, you can't go and look at it because it's in slightly different dimensions, so you won't just be able to see it there, unless you start seeing interdimensionally, which is a whole different thing, and which I've talked about a little bit in other videos. But anyway, so I'm floating up in this amorphous cloud, and then I'm in the ship once I get up there. You know, it's kind of like a bubble rising through water, but slower and more gently. And I'm, you know, looking around at my amorphous beingness and thinking, whoa, this is weird. And am I imagining this? And then, well, I've never imagined anything like this before, so I don't think I am. I think it's probably happening because if I were just going to randomly imagine something, it would probably be something that I had experienced before. And this wasn't. So, and then I'm in the ship. And when I go to visit this particular guide on this particular ship, what ends up happening is I find myself wearing this particular kind of suit, and I can look around and see other people wearing the similar suit. My guide, who's usually on the ship, is not wearing the suit. And what it was explained to me as the first time I went up a couple years ago was that the suit is kind of like a consciousness collector. Like there are these things all over the suit that kind of resemble crystals, but are pieces of technology. And he told me that the suit kind of like uploads your consciousness to the ship for a temporary period. And it's funny, but I could look around and the other people who were wearing the suit wasn't see-through, but the person was kind of see-through and ephemeral, although I could see them kind of like how you would imagine a ghost to be, that you could see through them. And then the extraterrestrials of all different races who were talking to them weren't ephemeral at all. From that perspective, at that time, they looked 3D, and we looked like we were from a different dimension. And all of the people I saw wearing the suits were human, and all of the extraterrestrials, I didn't see any at that particular moment that looked human, I don't think. At least I wasn't noticing them. Or if they did look human, they ended up being a lot taller. But anyway, so they still didn't really look human because not very many humans come in that size. So I'm up there talking to my main guide, and first of all, I was surprised to be there because I hadn't been there in a while. And I, you know, asked him what was up, what's going on, and the funny thing was the first thing he said to me as I started, you know, engaging and talking to him like I would talk to any of my mentors here on Earth, who I do have a few, who I really respect, and when I speak to them I kind of get fired up in this really specific way, but I also kind of act like a child and just like, oh my gosh, so tell me what's happening, and da-da-da-da. And he put his hand on my forehead and was like, you can really be yourself right now, it's okay. And it was a really weird thing to happen, but I just went with it. And as soon as he said that, my whole demeanor shifted. And I became super intense and super present and less like bubbly, which there's nothing wrong with being bubbly. That's how my personality is in the body in this incarnation. But I sometimes wonder if part of it's like defense mechanism or part of it's facade that I've learned as a tool during this lifetime, which does seem to be true, because the more authentic I get, the less spazzy and like way talking very quickly and being really outwardly emotive and things like that happen. So anyway, he says you can really be yourself, and it was kind of like this centering thing that happened. And the deeper part of me that controls things when I'm up there, and that the part of me that's talking to you right now is usually watching and not so much controlling, kind of took over and was like, oh, thank goodness I can really be myself now. And then I just got very, you know, directed and intense and still, which was really interesting. And then what he told me was that he reminded me that this is a period where the cycles are going very quickly. It used to be that the surge forward cycle would be kind of long, and then the rest and recharge cycle would be kind of long, and then the surge forward cycle would be kind of long. But over the past year or so, they've gotten shorter and shorter and shorter, until now it's, you know, at most a period of a few weeks. And I find that the rest and recharge cycles are shorter than the surge forward cycles. Like you'll rest and recharge for a week, and then you'll surge forward for 3 weeks or something about like that. So what he told me was that I should not be, and I assume that this goes for all of you as well, should not be trying to force it. I mean, for instance, take these videos. I got all this inspiration to do all these videos, and I was cranking out 1 or 2 a day for several weeks. And then all of a sudden, like, it just wasn't really moving anymore. And I was like, well, I could force one, but it felt like work rather than, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff in me that has to get out, and I have to, you know, show people and tell people and talk to people and that kind of thing. Same thing with the retreats. Sometimes when I'm planning them, I'm so inspired and I can't help but plan them. And sometimes it feels like pushing and like work. And so he said, when it feels like work, just don't do it. That means that there's something else you should be doing. And during this time period, probably that something else is resting. And he also said that even though I shouldn't be trying to force things to happen, when inspiration does come and when that surge of, oh, hey, I should take care of this right now does arrive, go ahead and jump on it right then because it'll pass. And if I wait till it passes, then I'll be back in a rest and recharge spot and not able to do it. And so I think that definitely goes for you guys too. When you get that surge of inspiration, then go ahead and do it right then. Don't assume that it'll last, because right now I think we're in a rest spot, especially considering how a bunch of you guys who watch my stuff and who I talk to, and I love you, by the way, and I have these similar cycles that we're all going through. So my guess is going to be that when I'm feeling like, oh yay, gotta get all this stuff out, this is awesome, feeling really motivated and mobile and energetic, then it's probably that I'm tapping into a cultural thing, at least in our subculture, who's kind of like, this new agey metaphysical love and lighter type situation. And then I kind of also think, I mean, the sheer amount of breakups alone, when my relationship ended with my husband, who's wonderful, but we just kind of, at least for now, I also found out right after that that tons of other people's relationships were ending in kind of the same way. Grateful for the relationship, nothing crazy happens, you just realize you're going in different ways. And then the struggle is mostly the cultural paradigms, or whether or not you can handle the fact that you're living outside the box and stay in your authenticity and do it. So anyway, I will assume that now that we're in a rest and recharge spot, or at least that I am, that we are. And I would just encourage you guys to embrace it and realize that it won't last forever. Don't think you're being lazy, just that you are acting appropriately in the environment where you're in. Sometimes life is easy, sometimes it's hard. When it's hard, it feels often like it will always be hard, and when it's easy, it feels often like it'll always be easy. So a nice thing to do is to remember that it's always a stage. And I had this visualization the other day of being in mud, like up to like my solar plexus or chest. It was kind of like the swamps of sadness from the Neverending Story, actually. And I felt myself like in this swamp, and I lifted my arms up, and there was all this like black, sticky, gross mud dripping off of me. And I looked up, and there was a ship over me, and it was this really beautiful blue, living, swirling, liquidy light, and it was up there, and I was kind of looking up at them like, what the hell, you guys? Like, what is going on? Why won't you come and get me out of this? And the response, and I think it was very symbolic and metaphorical, if you wanted to look at what was going on in my life at that particular time, it would have kind of been that I was kind of buried in gunk, because it was a spot I had to get through in order to progress. And of course, my guides who aren't in 3D, so they have it a lot easier in a lot of ways, are like looking down from above and being like, it's okay, we're rooting for you, you chose to do this, so it's a necessary part, and just keep going. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to eat heavier foods, eat heavier foods. If you need to eat lighter foods, eat lighter foods. If you need to have tough conversations with people that you love, then have them. Just try to stay centered in the awareness that you're creating everything. And so if a situation is happening to you, you're not a victim. Rather, your soul is trying to learn something through the situation. So even if what you have to do is end a relationship, some of you guys are in really difficult relationships where the person you're with is really keeping you down. And even if you have to do that, understand that you were with them for a really specific purpose. And just because now is the end of that time, it doesn't have to be that you have to demonize them. It can just be the end of the time, which is weird in our culture, and people don't really do that. It's kind of hard to say, oh, well, I'm going to end this friendship or romantic relationship just because it's time. There has to be a lot of drama in order for us to justify that we're ending it. But if what you're wanting to do is live in heaven and bring heaven to earth, which is kind of what we're doing here, right, then that wouldn't really be needed in heaven. I mean, I would assume that in heaven, and I'm not talking about like the Christian version of heaven with harps and angels in white robes. I'm talking about the vibrational state that Christ actually spoke of when he said the kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's, kind of a thought thing. And also all the other people talked about it, nirvana, enlightenment, things like that. But relationships would probably come and go, especially if we're eternal beings. We're not going to stay stuck to the same 1, 2, or 3 people during our entire existence. That would kind of be limiting. So realizing that things are going to come and go, and it can all be beautiful. My friend Mark Brady, who I'll put a link to his blog down below, he's a neuro person, and he is really bright and talks about how your brain works, because he and I are friends, so obviously he's cool with esoteric experiences, but he can put it in this really cool package of like, this is what's happening in your brain. So he just started a new really cool blog, and I'll put that link down below as well. But what he says is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. And in the blog he just wrote this weekend, he talks about how terrifying it must be to talk to an embryo about its upcoming birth, and how the birth must be this really scary, terrifying thing to the embryo who's about to essentially die. His entire, or her entire existence has been in this one really safe, hopefully, comfortable place, and things are about to hit the fan, and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And so it is a death for that child, but actually it's a birthing. So all things that end are, of course, for new beginnings, and it can be good if you allow it to be. Doesn't mean there won't be emotions that you have to purge, but just allowing that to happen, and that comes right back to this rest and recharge cycle. Sometimes it's time for motion, sometimes it's time to be still, sometimes it's time to make these changes, sometimes it's time to rest, take a breath, and stabilize after the changes have been made, and hold the new vibration where you are. And this especially goes for all you guys who are manifesting really cool stuff, especially if it's something you've never been able to manifest before. Understand that it's not a piece of cake. If you were used to manifesting it, you would have already manifested it a long time ago. So now that you're here and you're manifesting this new stuff, which is often really beautiful and amazing, you have to kind of take a breath and get used to being here, rather than just keep surging, and then spin off into who knows where. I mean, at least that's how I understand it at this point in this Gaian experience and experiment. Anyway, I have rambled for a really long time. I hope that was cohesive. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Still planning the retreats. Have a really cool announcement about the Mount Shasta one. And that's going to have, space for 11 to 13 people. 13 people if there are two couples that come, because there are a couple large beds, but we're obviously not going to put two people that don't know each other in the same bed. Or, like, if best friends or people come who don't mind sharing a bed, you guys could have that, and then there would be spots for two more. But as it looks, if everyone comes singly, there are spots for 11 people. So definitely stay posted on that. I hope to open up enrollment this week one day, so I'll let you guys know. But we are having, there's a surprise about someone who's going to be there, so I'll be unveiling that in the next couple days. Very excited. It's going to be epic and amazing. And also the ultralight camping retreat with Mike Cleland out in like the Teton area, Blue Ridge Mountains, is going to be in September, and hopefully that enrollment will be open this week too. And that's only going to be space for like 6 people, and I think one of the spots is already filled, so that means 5 people. So definitely stay posted for that. I think it's going to go pretty quick, probably. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great week. I hope that you're taking great care of yourself and of the people around you, but not at the expense of your self-love, because we're all responsible for what we do, us, not anybody else. And when someone is doing things that feel wonderful to you or feel awful to you, it's still just them. When they're projecting things on you that make you feel like a bad person, it's their projection, it's things they don't like about themselves. When they're projecting things onto you that make you feel amazing, it's things they do like about themselves, or things that they wish that they could embody. So it's never about you. Our love from the universe is all internal. And that is very freeing when you realize it. That no matter what anyone's saying or doing, positive or negative, you're still the same person, and you're still deserving of absolutely unconditional love that fills every fiber of your being. And that love is flowing to you at all moments. Love, abundance, happiness, joy, bliss, all of it is there for you. All you have to do is attune to it. So go in peace. Have a wonderful week. I'm assuming that I'll be posting again. The flow is starting again. I think I just had to take a couple days off and kind of rest and recharge and sleep a lot and eat some quinoa. And yeah, that is that. I will talk to you soon.